Good morning, everyone. Should we start now?
Yes, sir, we
Yes,
can.
sir, we can start.
Good morning, friends. And today we are going to start the very first chapter of Indian economy. So, basically, this segment that I'm dealing with right now is the banking segment. We will be starting from the banking segment, reason being that, reason being that it's comparatively, easier than other segments of Indian economy. Even those who are not from the background of economics can easily understand the segment of banking because we are acquainted with what exactly happens in banks, right? When you go to banks, you find banks either accepting deposits from people or providing loans or transferring funds from one account to another account, one branch to another branch. So we all are acquainted with the kind of things which are happening in the banks. So it's going to be easier for you to understand the mechanism of banking or the entire financial system that I'm dealing at the very onset, right? So you should know that the highest banking in the country or the apex bank is called the Reserve Bank of India or the central bank, right? Central bank is the bank to all banks. It is the highest bank in the country, right? So any other kinds of bank, whether it is commercial banks or cooperative banks or RRB or any other banks that you find like the small finance banks or the payment banks, all these banks are working under the broad supervision of Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India happens to be the central bank of this country, right? And the central bank supervises the operations of all other banks like the commercial bank or cooperative banks. In every country, you have a central bank. You go to US, there is a central bank. This is called the Federal Reserve. In China, you have the central bank. This is called People's Bank of China. In Pakistan, you have the State Bank of Pakistan, which is the central bank. Back in India, you have the central bank, which is called the Reserve Bank of India, right? So Reserve Bank of India is the apex bank in the country. So we would be starting this chapter from the Reserve Bank of India, right? So this is our first chapter. This is Reserve Bank of India, RBI. Chapter 1 is RBI. And in this chapter, we'll discuss all these topics. First is some important facts relating to RBI, then management of RBI, then important functions of Central Bank or Reserve Bank of India. Then we'll discuss credit control by Reserve Bank of India and its instruments. And at last, we'll discuss liquidity management conducted by the RBI. Liquidity management. So these are the topics that we have to complete in this particular chapter. Some important facts relating to RBI, then management of RBI, then important functions of Reserve Bank of India, then the credit control conducted by RBI and what are the different instruments used for this purpose. And at last, we'll discuss liquidity management, right? So let's begin this chapter from the very basic facts relating to RBI, right? So far as some facts are concerned, the first may be with respect to the establishment of RBI. You must know that Reserve Bank of India was established on 1st of April, 1935. It was established on 1st of April 1935 on the basis of suggestion of a committee which is called Hilton Commission. It is Hilton Commission that gave advice to the government of India then that there has to be a central bank in the country. So this is called Hilton Commission. In fact, this commission had been constituted by the government in 1926, right? And the commission gave advice to the government that there has to be a central bank to run the operations of banking in the economy of India. And this Hilton Commission is officially called Royal Commission on Indian Currency and Finance. Royal Commission on Indian Currency and Finance. Indian Currency and Finance. Please write it down. It was established on the basis of recommendation of Hilton Young Commission, which is officially called Royal Commission on Indian Currency and Finance. Royal Commission on Indian Currency and Finance. And the bank which are established in the economy is through the act of parliament, right? What I mean to say is that for establishing the bank in our country, it is required that a bill to this effect is presented in the parliament, and once this bill get passed in the parliament, then only we can establish a bank in our country. For example, just 7 years back in 2014, two private banks were established in our country. One is Bandhan Bank, and the second was the what I call IDFC Bank, right? These two banks were established when the Reserve Bank of India gave the license in 2014, right? But to this effect, a bill was presented in the parliament, and when the bill got passed in the parliament, then only the banks could see the light of the day, right? So this is the procedure. Every bank established as per the Act of Parliament. Reserve Bank of India is not an exception to this, right? Even when this was established in our country, a bill was, laid before the parliament, and when this bill was passed, then only the Reserve Bank of India could see the light of the day. So Reserve Bank of India is being regulated by RBI Act of 1934. You can see just 1 year before the establishment of this bank, the act was passed in the parliament, which is called Reserve Bank of India Act of 1934, right? So you can say that with respect to the establishment of RBI, the act was passed, which is called Reserve Bank of India Act of 1934. And this is the basic legal framework by which RBI is working right now, right? All the powers that Reserve Bank of India derives, it is as per the provision of RBI Act, right? All the powers that Reserve Bank of India derives is as per the provision of Reserve Bank of India Act of 1934, right? So if there has to be some changes in the functioning of Reserve Bank of India or in the procedure adopted by Reserve Bank of India, first there has to be a change in this RBI Act 1934, right? And obviously, there have been several instances where this act was amended by the government as per the changing situations, right? So this happens to be the legal framework which governs the functioning of RBI and all the officials of Reserve Bank of India, right? So these are the three things that you have to keep in your mind with respect to establishment of Reserve Bank of India. First, it was established on 1st of April 1935. The commission that gave the advice to the establishment was Hilton Young Commission, which is officially called Royal Commission on Indian Currency and Finance. And the last thing is that to the effect of establishment of this bank, an act was passed in the parliament, which is called RBI Act 1934. This happens to be the most important legal framework by which Reserve Bank of India is drawing its power and working as the central bank of this country, right? Second important fact relates to important offices of RBI. Important offices of RBI. The most important office or the highest most office of Reserve Bank of India, that means headquarter. Headquarter of Reserve Bank of India, we know that it's located in Mumbai, right? But when this bank was started in 1935, its headquarter was in Kolkata. It was in Kolkata. In the year of 1937, the headquarter got shifted from Kolkata to Mumbai. and since then it has been located in Mumbai. The British government had established this bank in Kolkata, not in Mumbai. In the year of 1937, it was shifted from Kolkata to Mumbai. Right now, it is located in Mumbai. Then there are four important local boards of RBI. Apart from this headquarter, the second important office is local board of RBI. Local boards of RBI. There are four local boards of RBI in four different regions of India. In North India, the local board of Reserve Bank of India is in New Delhi. Then in South India, this is in Chennai. In West India, this is in Mumbai. And in East India, this is in Kolkata. So say that there are four important local boards of Reserve Bank of India in four different regions of India: North, East, West, and South. So what is the importance of having this local board? The headquarters of Reserve Bank of India, while making the policy on banking and money supply, takes into consideration the inputs or informations provided by all these local boards. India is a very large country. It's a very vast country. The banking and monetary requirement of different parts of India are different. Like the banking habits of people of East India is different than that of North India. Like here in East India, you have more prevalence of cash. But you go to North India, you find that nowadays people are using online modes of transferring the payments from one account to another account, right? So this is how the banking habits are different. So obviously the prevalence of cash has to be more in Eastern India than in Northern India, right? So while making the policy on money supply, banking, and management of banking, Reserve Bank of India has to be, acquainted with the different situations in different parts of India. So what RBI does is to take, the vital inputs or informations from all these local boards before making the policy. And considering all these inputs provided by these local boards, Reserve Bank of India has been able to formulate an appropriate monetary and banking policy. So there lies the importance of local boards of Reserve Bank of India. Apart from that, you must know that there are a kind of bank which is called cooperative banks that I will discuss later on. But the operations of cooperative bank is under the aegis of, under the supervision of local boards of RBI, right? In every states of India, we have some cooperative banks, and all these cooperative banks are being supervised by the local boards of Reserve Bank of India. So this is the area from the questions can be asked by the UPSC. Ki, where lies the importance of local boards of RBI, or what exactly local boards of RBI does in our country? So two things that you have to keep in your mind. First thing is that the local boards of Reserve Bank of India give inputs and informations based on which the headquarter has been able to formulate the policy, right? Appropriate policy. This is the first thing. Second thing that local boards has been, interested with is that they supervise the operations of cooperative banks in different states of India. Like for all the states, the boards located in New Delhi will supervise the operations of cooperative banks. So here lies the importance of local boards of RBI. Apart from that we have some regional offices of RBI. Third important office is called regional offices of RBI. See here, regional offices of Reserve Bank of India. So regional offices have been established in almost all the states of India and union territories. Regional offices of Reserve Bank of India has been established in almost all the states of India and union territories. And these offices serve the requirement of different state governments. This bank, Reserve Bank of India, happens to be the bank of the government. Like our banks are the commercial banks. You go to deposit your money, you go to avail the credit from the commercial banks only, like the State Bank of India, PNB. These are the commercial banks. So these are the people's bank. But government banks is Reserve Bank of India. Government keep their money with RBI. Government avail the money from the Reserve Bank of India, right? But it's not only the central government that get the banking facility from the Reserve Bank of India. Even the state government obtain the facility of banking from the Reserve Bank of India. Even the state government required to keep their surplus money with the RBI, and in the requirement of money, the state government can avail the loan from the Reserve Bank of India, right? So, so keeping this requirement on the part of the state government, it was felt that the office has to be established in every states of India and UT, right? And these offices, which cater to the requirement or which cater to the banking requirement of state government, are called regional offices. So right now, approximately, I think there are 31 regional offices in our country. 31 regional offices in different states of India as well as union territories, right? Union territories, no, but not all the union territories. Union territories where I think the assembly is there. Like we have in Delhi, then we have in Puducherry, right? You have the regional offices there, right? So these are the important offices. Headquarter in Mumbai, local boards of RBI, four local boards of RBI, and then regional offices. Third important fact is with respect to the nationalization of RBI. Nationalization of RBI. So bank was nationalized on 1st of January 1949. But what we mean by nationalization of Reserve Bank of India? So this is the process by which a private entity is acquired by the government. It is brought under the control of the government, right? So when this bank was established in 1935, it used to be a private bank, right? The government has no stake at all in this particular bank in 1935. But on 1st of January 1949, the government purchased this bank. The government acquired this bank, and this bank is brought under the direct control of the government of India. So this process of bringing a private company or private entities under the control of the government is called nationalization. Reserve Bank of India was nationalized on 1st of January 1949, and since then it has been working as an important unit of government of India. Now it's completely owned by the government. It's completely owned by the government of India, right? There has been no private stake in this particular bank since 1949. And in fact, this year of 1949 has been a very significant year in the banking development of India, right? The first important thing, as you know, the bank was, or the central bank was brought under the direct control of the government of India. And in the same year of 1949, for the very first time in free India, Banking Regulations Act was passed. Banking Regulation Act was passed in our country. And this is called Banking Regulations Act of 1949, right? So you can see that India got freedom in 1947, and then just 2 years after of independence, this act was passed in the parliament, which is called Banking Regulations Act of 1949. And this was to regulate the functioning of all the banks in our country, so that those banks could be made the instruments of social changes. Like you must be knowing that when India got independence in 1947, we used to be a very poor country, right? We used to be a very poor country, backward country, right? Now it was time for the government of India then to make the progress, right? And progress cannot be achieved till we streamline the functioning of banks in our country, right? So to streamline the functioning of banks in our country so that those banks could be made the instruments of economic and social changes, regulation was required, right? And this was achieved by the government through the passage of this important legislation, which is called Banking Regulations Act of 1949, right? And through this act, an extensive power was given to RBI. Through this act, an extensive power was given to Reserve Bank of India, like power of giving license to commercial bank, power of giving or granting license to commercial bank was given to RBI. Then even the Reserve Bank of India was given the license to cancel the license of some commercial banks on some grounds, right? So RBI could now grant the license to commercial bank, and on some grounds Reserve Bank of India could cancel the license of some commercial bank, right? So these were the powers that were given to RBI in 1949 through Banking Regulations Act. And now see that all the banks in our country, whether they are commercial banks, cooperative banks, or any other banks, they all came under the working supervision of Reserve Bank of India, and thus RBI became the bank to all banks, right? So this was in 1949, and that is why we consider this year of 1949 as a significant year in the banking development of our country, right? The first thing that happened in our country, was the Reserve Bank of India was nationalized, and second, RBI was given the extensive power to regulate all banks in our country through the passage of Banking Regulations Act of 1949, right? So these facts you have to keep in your mind. And now there are some elementary facts, like you can be asked, who is the present governor of RBI? You know the present governor of RBI? This is Shaktikant Das. Shaktikant Das. He is the present governor of RBI. He is an IS officer from the state of Odisha, and he has been at the helm of affairs of Reserve Bank of India. Then the first governor of RBI was the first governor? आप में से कोई जानता है who was the first governor of RBI? Osborne Smith. Osborne Smith was the first governor of Reserve Bank of India, right? Then who was the first governor of RBI from India? First Indian governor of RBI. C.D. Deshmukh. C.D. Deshmukh was the first Indian governor of RBI. C.D. Deshmukh was the first Indian governor of RBI, right? In fact, he was the third governor of RBI. The first governor, Osborne Smith. The second was Mr. James from UK. Mr. James from UK, he was the second governor of RBI, and the third was from India, C.D. Deshmukh. You must know that this person became the finance minister of India later on, right? First, he was at the helm of affairs of Reserve Bank of India from the year of 1943 to 1949. Then he became the finance minister of India also, right? So see, there are two important things with respect to this person. The first is that he was the first Indian governor, right? He was the first Indian governor of RBI, and then he is the first governor of RBI in free India, right? He's the first governor of RBI in free India. See, India got freedom in 1947, and when we got freedom, C.D. Deshmukh was at the helm of affairs of RBI. So this is the first governor of RBI in free India, right? So these are some important facts relating to Reserve Bank of India, right? Now we'll start the second topic of this chapter. This is about the management of RBI. Management of RBI. So what we mean by management of RBI here, we'll discuss the most important organ responsible for policy making, right? Management is about two things. Management is about two things. The first important thing is policy making or decision making. Decision making. And the second is about implementing those decisions. Implementing those decisions. This is what management is all about, right? And to implement the decisions, we have some officers, we have some staffs, we know that, right? The more important organ is the organ which make all the decisions, right? So here when we talk of management of Reserve Bank of India, it's not about the implementing agency of RBI. We know that for the sake of implementations, we have the number of staffs or employees or officers, right? We are not concerned with that segment of management. When we talk of management here of Reserve Bank of India, it relates to the most important organ that is responsible for all the decision making. Like we know that Reserve Bank of India prints money for the economy of India, right? Money comes from the Reserve Bank of India. But how much money needs to be printed, right? How much of 500, how much of 2000, how much of 100 rupees needs to be printed? This is something to be decided, right? So now we will see which is the organ within Reserve Bank of India which take all these important decisions. This is called management of RBI, right? So RBI is managed by a central board of directors. It is managed by a central board of directors, right? In newspaper, this central word is not used. They simply write it as board of directors. So either you say central board of directors or board of directors. They carry the same meaning, right? So it is managed by central board of directors consisting of 21 members. Consisting of 21 members. All the important decisions of RBI is taken by this board of directors in which we have 21 members. Now we'll see who are the members of this central board of directors, right? So there are 21 directors. The most important director is called the governor of RBI. Governor of RBI. And we know that there is only one governor in RBI. He is the most important member of Central Board of Directors. Apart from that, we have 4 deputy governors. 4 deputy governors. Then we have 4 directors, each nominated by each local boards of RBI. Each local board of RBI. There are 4 local boards of RBI that we have discussed in 4 different regions of India, in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and Kolkata. Each local board of RBI nominates 1 member as director, right? And he becomes the member of Central Board of Directors. Then 10 directors are nominated by Government of India. 10 directors are nominated by Government of India. Then we have 2 officers. 2 officers, and these officers are from the Ministry of Finance, right? These 2 officers have to be from the Ministry of Finance, and these 2 officers are also nominated by Government of India. See, all these people are the part of this Central Board of Directors. One is the governor, then the 4 deputy governors, then 4 directors nominated by local boards of RBI, then 10 directors nominated by Government of India, 2 officers nominated by Government of India. So total number is 21. Now, these governors and deputy governors are called official directors of RBI. Governor and deputy governors, they are called official directors of RBI. Official directors of RBI. And remaining directors are called non-official directors of RBI. Non-official directors of RBI. Official directors are governors and deputy governors. Non-official directors are all these remaining directors nominated either by local boards of RBI as well as the government of India. The official directors, governors and deputy governors are appointed by government of India. Please write it down. Governor and deputy governors are appointed by government of India. Appointed by government of India. For a complete tenure of 5 years. Right? For a complete duration of how many years? 5 years. But this tenure of official directors is being split in two different parts. The first term of service is only for 3 years, right? And then an extension of 2 years can be provided to them by the government, right? So 3 plus 2, this is how they are appointed by the government, right? Like when Raghuram Rajan was appointed by government, it was in September. It was in 4th of September 2013, right? And he was appointed for 3 years only till 2016. Then he could have been given the extension of 2 years by the government of India. But Professor Rajan himself declined the offer and he went back to America, right? Then Urjit Patel came to the Reserve Bank of India. He was also appointed for the 3 years of time, right? Later on, the extension can be given of 2 years. This is how the tenure of 5 years is being split in two different parts, right? All other directors, I mean, non-official directors are nominated by government or local boards for a complete tenure of 4 years. Complete and continuous tenure of 4 years, right? They are for 4 years only. Now you see that the difference. Official directors are appointed by government. Non-officials are nominated by the government or the local boards of RBI. So what is the difference between being appointed and nominated? What is the difference between being appointed and nominated? See, so far as nomination is concerned, there has been no specific rules and procedures, right? There has been no specific rules and procedure. It depends upon the discretionary power of the government, who the government wants to nominate, whether you are junior officer or senior officers. It makes no difference. If government wants you to nominate to the positions, it can be done. The government has to follow no rules, no procedure, right? But while appointing the officer, for the sake of appointment, the established norms are to be followed by the government. The established procedure needs to be followed by the government. Here, the discretionary power of the government is not going to work. So this is the difference between being appointed and being nominated. Anyhow, this is the most important organ of Reserve Bank of India. Now you know the composition of this organ, right? Responsible for all the important decisions relating to the banking or the monetary policy, right? Now we'll start a bit more important topic because these are the basics one. Facts and management, these are the basics ones, but the relevant topic that I'm going to discuss now is important functions of Reserve Bank of India or central bank, right? Functions of RBI. Now the topic is going to be more and more important. As we proceed further, the topic will become more relevant, more important for you. So what are the important functions? We'll discuss them one by one. The first one is issue of paper notes, printing and issue of paper notes. Right. We have a monetary system of transactions now. System of transactions of goods and services could be monetary system of transactions, or it can be the barter system of transaction. Right. In barter system of transactions, what happens? This is the exchange of commodity for commodity, C for C. This is called barter system of exchange. Like you may have some rice and I may have some wheat, right? You may require wheat, I may require rice. So there could be an exchange of these two goods between you and me, right? You can provide me the wheat that I require, I can provide you the rice that you require. This is called the barter system of exchange. And this sort of exchange prevails in the economy at the very primitive stage of the development of the economy. But as the economy advances, the economy becomes, complex, population increases, and there becomes lots of difficulties with the barter system of exchange, right? So now we move from the barter system of exchange to the monetary system of exchange. The basic difference is that in monetary system of exchange, money is used as a medium of exchange, right? See, in barter system of exchange, there is no use of money. Only two commodities are being, I mean to say that in the process of exchange, commodities are exchanged between two people. There is no use of money. But in the monetary system of exchange, money is always used for the sake of transactions of goods and services, right? Like if you want to buy something, you have to give the money to the person from you're purchasing, right? And when you sell something, you get the money. So money has become the medium of exchange, right? So today we have the monetary system of exchange, and in this monetary system of exchange, money is being used to facilitate transactions. But now the questions arises, who will bring out the money for the people so that those money can be used for the process of transactions? This power has not been given to common people. We are not authorized to print money. Otherwise, we would not have been in the class, right? You people would have been printing the money at your places. I would have been printing the money, right? What is the use of holding this class if it gives no money at all, right? So obviously this power is not vested with the people of India. And don't try to print the money. If you try to print the money, you will be behind the bars. So this power has been given to whom? The central bank of the country. Only the central bank is allowed to print money. Section 22 of RBI Act 1934. Section 22 of RBI Act 1934 empowers the RBI to print and issue paper notes for the economy of India. Paper notes for the economy of India. For the economy of India. Right? Section 22 of RBI Act 1934 empowers Reserve Bank of India to issue paper notes for the economy of India. So this is one thing. Second thing is that in our economy, there are two institutions which are responsible for the circulation of money, right? There are two important institutions responsible for circulation of money. The first one is Reserve Bank of India, and the second one is Government of India, right? Even Government of India circulates some kind of money. Like you must be knowing that 1 rupee paper note. Rupee 1 paper note is not printed by RBI. It is printed by whom? The Government of India, right? And mind it, this is the valid money. This has not become invalid in our country. This is the valid money, though it has not been in use nowadays, right? You hardly find the currency of 1 rupee. लेकिन जब हम लोग छोटे थे, हम लोग छोटे होंगे, आप लोगों ने भी देखा होगा, तो 1 रुपए का नोट जो है प्रिवेल करता था, है ना? So if this has to be printed, let's suppose to some amount, this will be printed by Government of India, not by the Reserve Bank of India. And apart from that, all the coins are printed by the government, not printed. Use the word mint, right? They are minted by, coins are minted by the government, right? इसको हिंदी में टकसाल कहते हैं, है ना? इंडिया में कुछ टकसाल है, minting press है, where coins are being minted by the government. Like you have in Hosangabad, Madhya Pradesh, you have in Noida, Uttar Pradesh, you have in Solan, where it is in Himachal Pradesh, right? So these are some of the places where we have the minting press of Government of India, where coins are minted. So these are the money which are circulated by the Government of India, right? Apart from them, right from 2 rupees to 2000 rupees, they are printed and circulated by Reserve Bank of India. From 2 rupees to 2000 rupees, they are printed by Reserve Bank of India. So right now the highest amount of money is of 2000 rupees. But you must know that RBI is empowered to print up to 10,000 rupees paper notes, right? So it's printing now only the highest 2000 rupees, but it is empowered to print paper notes up to 10,000 rupees, not beyond that. RBI doesn't allow RBI to print more than 10,000 of paper notes, right? So in the economy of India, we had even the currency of 5,000 rupees in our country. Like we have today 2,000 rupees, right? Right. Likewise, we had 5,000 and we had the currency of even 10,000 rupees in the economy, but they were demonetized by the government, right? Now they do not circulate, they do not exist in the economy. They have been withdrawn by the government, but Reserve Bank of India keeps this power of printing paper notes up to 10,000 rupees, right? Then now we'll discuss the system by which RBI prints money. Please write it down. System by which RBI prints money. System by which RBI prints money. This system is called minimum reserve system. And it came into force in 1957. This system became effective in 1957. So since 1957, the Reserve Bank of India has been printing money as per this system. This is called minimum reserve system. So now we'll see what is this system all about and the rationale behind this system. So please write it down. According to this system, please write it down, everyone. According to this system, RBI is required to, according to this system, the RBI is required to maintain a minimum reserve of 200 crore worth of assets. RBI is required to maintain a minimum reserve of 200 crore worth of assets, out of which 115 crore worth of assets must be in terms of gold. 115 crore worth of assets must be in terms of gold, and remaining 85 crore worth of assets, 85 crore worth of assets must be in terms of foreign currency. 115 crore worth of assets must be in terms of gold, and remaining 85 crore must be in terms of foreign currency. So as per this system, you can see it's mandatory for Reserve Bank of India for printing new currency, right? For printing new currency, it's mandatory for Reserve Bank of India to maintain a minimum reserve of 200 crore worth of assets, right? Out of which 115 crore has to be in terms of gold, and remaining 85 crore has to be in terms of foreign currency. The implication of this system is that if at any point of time Reserve Bank of India is not having this minimum reserve of assets, then RBI cannot print new currency, right? Are you getting this point? According to this system, RBI has to maintain this much of assets, 200 crore worth of assets. It has to maintain all the time, right? So it implies that if at any point of time RBI is not having this much of assets, then RBI will lose its power of printing new currency at that point of time. The requirement has to be fulfilled by the Reserve Bank of India. See, there are two important departments within RBI which look after the requirement of printing of currency. One is called the issue department. Issue department of RBI, responsible to issue the paper notes, right? It prints money and issue them in the market, in the economy, right? This is the issue department. But issue department, before printing the currency, has to take the permission or approval from the banking department of RBI. Now, people from the banking department, officials from the banking department will go there and ensure that the issue department is having this much of assets, 200 crore worth of assets. If the banking department finds that the Reserve Bank of India is not having this much of assets, then the permission cannot be granted to print new currency, right? So it's only after the banking department ensure that this much of assets has been maintained by Reserve Bank of India or the issue department, then only permission is granted, right? Otherwise not. So this is the system of minimum reserve. Now, second point, you see that money printed by or paper notes printed by RBI is on the basis of two different kinds of assets. You must have some gold reserve with you. You must have some amount of foreign currency. These are two different categories of assets on the basis of which RBI prints money, right? On the basis of which RBI prints money. So see, the paper notes that we have in circulations today are backed by two different kinds of assets at the disposal of RBI. One asset is in terms of gold, and second asset is in terms of foreign currency, right? So on the basis of these two kinds of assets, RBI prints money. Now we'll try to understand the rationale behind this system, why it's mandatory for RBI to maintain this much of reserve, right? We'll see why RBI is required to maintain this much of assets in terms of gold and foreign currency. What is the reason? What is the rationale behind this system? So, printing of paper notes. Printing of paper notes are the liability of RBI. Please write it down. Printing of paper notes are the liability of RBI. See, if you look at the balance sheet of Reserve Bank of India, on the one hand, you have the liability of RBI, and on the other hand, we have the assets of RBI. Assets of RBI. So in the balance sheet, you have the liabilities, you have the assets of Reserve Bank of India. So printing of paper notes. Becomes liabilities of RBI. So when I say that as of now, Reserve Bank of India has printed 30 lakh crore rupees. Let's suppose as of now, Reserve Bank of India has printed 30 lakh crore rupees for the economy of India. So this is the liability on Reserve Bank of India on account of printing of currency. Liability is something that you owe to somebody. Liability is something that you owe to somebody. You have to return this. Like when you take the loan from somebody, you take the loan from the banks or your relatives or friends. That is your liability. You have to return this, right? And assets are something that gives you an income, right? So when RBI prints money, that creates liability on the account of Reserve Bank of India. This is the liability which RBI needs to fulfill. And to fulfill the obligations of your liabilities, you must have some amount of assets with you. You must have some assets where you can get the income from, so that it's not difficult now to fulfill these obligations of your liabilities, right? So what RBI has been asked to do is to maintain a minimum assets of 200 crore rupees. A minimum assets of 200 crore worth of assets, right? So that it has no difficulty in fulfilling its obligations, right? See, this liability that Reserve Bank of India needs to fulfill arises several times. In recent past, this arose at the time of demonetization, right? Liability that arises to RBI can be at several point of time. It arose with RBI at the time of demonetizations. Look here, example. We know that on 8th of November 2016, the currency of 500 and 1000 was demonetized by the government, the Reserve Bank of India, right? People of India were asked to deposit this money to the Reserve Bank of India through the banking system, because this was going to be invalid. But that doesn't mean our hard-earned money will go wasted, right? Since Reserve Bank of India printed this money, Reserve Bank of India was obliged to pay this money back to the people of India, right? This money that RBI prints is the liability of RBI, and this liability reflects through the promises that we find on the paper notes. Have you seen the promise on the paper notes? What does that say? I promise to pay the bearer the sum of 500 rupees or 2000 rupees. राइट? आपने देखा होगा, वहां पे लिखा होता है ना, आई प्रॉमिस टू पे द बेयरर द सम ऑफ 500 rupees or 1000 rupees or 200 rupees, and the very promise reflects that it is the obligations, it is the liabilities of Reserve Bank of India. Liabilities in the sense that when RBI will take this money back from the people of India, RBI will have to pay the equal value, right? Like 500 rupees was taken back by the people of India, but the equal value was given back to us, isn't it? Right? When we deposited this money, which got invalid, right? Didn't we get the money from the government? Yes, we got the money from the government of equal value, though in different currency, right? So 16 lakh crore rupees, 16 lakh crore rupees were returned by the people of India to the Reserve Bank of India. These were in terms of 500 and 1000 currency, right? All this money went back to Reserve Bank of India. But the same amount of money was returned by the Reserve Bank of India to people of India. How this became possible? This became possible because Reserve Bank of India was having the minimum assets of 200 crore. If minimum assets wouldn't have been there with RBI, RBI wouldn't have been able to print the money and fulfill the liabilities, fulfill the obligations. Are you getting my point? So liabilities must be matched with the assets. You must have some assets by which you can print some new amount of money and fulfill your obligations. And that is why this system prevails for the Reserve Bank of India. It's being asked by the government that you have to maintain 200 crore worth of assets all the time so that you have no difficulty fulfilling this kind of liabilities, right? This one. But you can say that, sir, there is no matching of the assets and liabilities. Like if RBI maintains only 200 crore of assets, say the total amount of money that has been printed so far by Reserve Bank of India is 30 lakh crore rupees. This is the total amount of money that has been printed so far. But how much minimum assets RBI is having? Only 200 crore. So there is a mismatch. The amount of liabilities of Reserve Bank of India is far, far greater than the assets or the minimum assets. Still, RBI doesn't need to worry, right? Still, RBI doesn't need to worry. See, there is a mismatch. Liabilities is far greater than the assets. But the same assets can allow the Reserve Bank of India to print as much money as RBI wants, right? There is no limitations on Reserve Bank of India as to the amount of money it can print, right? On the basis of the minimum assets of 200 crore, it can print any amount of money. So even though liabilities can be greater than the assets, Reserve Bank of India doesn't need to worry. It can print any amount of money, right? You all getting the point? आप लोग समझ पा रहे हैं सब कुछ? कुछ पूछना है? Can you ask me the questions? कुछ पूछना है तो? Can somebody unmute? Can someone unmute yourself and ask the questions if you have some doubt? Is that possible? It's getting one-sided, I think.
अगर किन्हीं को डाउट है तो रेज हैंड अपना
Please raise your hands because now it's more than 1 hour that I've been taking the class, so there could be some doubts in your mind. You can ask the doubts raising your hands. You please raise your hands if you have some doubts. And if you have no doubts, then I can go ahead. Yes, Vikas.
जिनका भी डाउट है
one by one. Ashwani Chauhan, you can ask the question. Achilles, yes, Ashwani.
हेलो सर।
Yes, पूछिए।
सर मेरा डाउट ये है कि अगर हम अगर आरबीआई मिनिमम रिजर्व नहीं रखता है तो
हम्म,
उसके इफेक्ट्स क्या होंगे?
वही मैंने बताया, implication is that at that point of time RBI will have no power to print new currency. उस समय RBI नया करेंसी को प्रिंट नहीं कर पाएगी.
सिर्फ ये एक ही इम्प्लीकेशन होगा इसका, या इज देयर एनी अदर वन?
So this implications is much bigger in its sense, because if RBI is not able to print money for the economy, how the economy can be run? So RBI has to ensure that this much of assets is being maintained all the time. Otherwise, the entire monetary transaction is going to be collapsed.
ओके सर,
Hmm.
थैंक यू सर.
Yes. Umar, पूछिए.
Yes, sir. My question is that RBI is regarded as the last resort, right?
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
if
I will discuss.
government of India,
that. I will discuss that point later on in the next point.
my question is that if government of India needs money anyhow,
Yes.
but RBI doesn't maintain that time minimum asset.
I will discuss this point later on.
Okay,
Now,
okay,
while
okay.
discussing. Yes.
Okay.
Richa Kumari. Richa Kumari. Sumant and Mohan.
Yes sir, Richa Kumari, I'm there.
हाँ, पूछिए.
सर एक बार फिर से एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं being nominated or being appointed के बीच difference?
When
Clear
government
नहीं है.
nominates, no procedure, no norms are to be followed by the government. There is no established, procedure to be followed by the government. It depends upon the sweet will of the government, who the government wants to nominate, right?
Okay sir.
But in case of appointment, the government needs to follow the procedure. The government needs to follow the norms. This is the difference. Yes, Mohan. Mohan.
हेलो.
हाँ, yes.
यस सर, जैसे कि डीमोनेटाइजेशन के टाइम पे तो सब पैसा पूरा नहीं आया था, तो आरबीआई ने उस एसेट का क्या किया था?
पूरा नहीं आया था.
जैसे कि नोट बंद हो गए थे ना.
पूरा तो आ गया, 99.9% आ गया था, 0.1% नहीं आया था.
अच्छा
तो ठीक है ना, आरबीआई की लायबिलिटी कम हो गई.
ठीक ओके सर.
आरबीआई को 100 रुपए प्रिंट करने थे, उन्होंने 99.9% ही प्रिंट किए. यस. और कोई?
ओके सर.
गौरव त्यागी.
Hello, sir.
यस.
Many times, sir, RBI transfer surplus money to the government. Then how it can possible?
What? Can you repeat the question?
Sir, many time RBI transfer surplus money to the government. Recently, RBI have done 2 or 3 times.
That is out of profit of Reserve Bank of India. The surplus money is being transferred. That
This
is not the
profit of money
dividend.
can be used to print the money, sir. When RBI has in excess of the money.
That is the revenue. That is the revenue receipt of the government. RBI
Okay,
is
sir.
the unit owned by the government, right? And being the unit owned by the government, the unit requires to pay a part of their profit in terms of dividend, right? So every
Okay.
unit run by the government, if they are making profit, a part of profit has to be given by the a part of profit has to be given to the government. That is called dividend, and dividend becomes the revenue receipt of the government. Yes, Saurav Kumar.
Okay, sir.
Saurav.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
हेलो सर.
Yes.
Sir, RBI adopted the
देव पूछे. देव.
sir. This is hello.
हाँ, पूछिए.
Sir, we have adopted the RBI adopted the minimum reserve system to print money. Did that system is adopted from any country or is it indigenously created by the country?
No, it's for India only, na?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, the central bank of different countries may be using different kind of things,
Okay.
right? Kuldeep.
सर एक बार वो फिर से पॉइंट एक्सप्लेन करेंगे क्या सर? लायबिलिटी ज्यादा और एसेट कम है सर, 200 करोड़ होने के बावजूद भी लायबिलिटी मतलब आरबीआई ज्यादा प्रिंट कर सकती है, वो
क्योंकि
पॉइंट एक
200
बार
करोड़ के
explain
बेसिस में 200 करोड़ के बेसिस में आरबीआई जितना प्रिंट करना चाहे कर सकती है ना। अभी डिमोनेटाइजेशन के टाइम में ये हुआ था ना, 16 लाख करोड़ रुपीज वाज डिपॉजिटेड विथ आरबीआई बाय द पीपल ऑफ इंडिया। लेकिन अगर आरबीआई के पास केवल 200 करोड़ रुपए है, फिर भी आरबीआई को डरने की जरूरत नहीं है, वो आसानी से अपने ऑब्लिगेशंस को फुलफिल कर सकेगा, है ना। सो ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ लेट्स सपोज 200 crore worth of assets, RBI could easily print 16 lakh crore rupees in different or new currency that were given back to the people of India, right? बट आप एक्चुअल में देखेंगे जो अकाउंट्स मेंटेन किया जाता है, आपका लाइबिलिटीज और एसेट्स जो है दोनों आपका मैच करता है। लेकिन फिर भी मैं बोल रहा हूँ, अगर मिनिमम एसेट्स भी आरबीआई रखे तो इट्स गोइंग टू बी नो प्रॉब्लम फॉर द रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया, एज इट कैन प्रिंट एनी नंबर ऑफ मनी इट वांट्स फॉर द इकोनॉमी। ठीक है। अभिषेक।
हेलो
यस
सर।
यस।
सर अगर आरबीआई के पास 200 करोड़ नहीं है तो वो अदर बैंक से लोन लेके प्रिंट कर सकता है मनी?
अरे किसी से आरबीआई किसी से लोन लेगा, क्या मतलब बोल रहे हैं? वो किसी से लोन लेके प्रिंट कर सकता है? व्हाट डज दैट मीन?
अदर
200 का
बैंक।
वर्थ ऑफ एसेट्स होना चाहिए। इट्स नॉट इन टर्म्स ऑफ द हार्ड करेंसी, टर्म्स ऑफ गोल्ड एंड फॉरेन करेंसी। ये गोल्ड और फॉरेन करेंसी के रूप में होना चाहिए। और करेंसी इज बैक्ड बाय सम मेटल्स। मेटल्स मींस गोल्ड जो है उसको बैक कर रही है, ठीक है ना। या प्रिंस, प्रिंस पूछिए।
Okay, sir. So my question was that, as you said that RBI must have the assets of 200, a minimum 200 crore.
Yes.
For fulfilling the obligations that in the form of liabilities.
Right,
So,
right.
for fulfilling that liabilities, from where it gets, from the assets or from the other capitals? Because for fulfilling the liabilities, there must be some capital to invest.
Yeah, the initial capital was given to the Reserve Bank of India when it was established.
Okay, sir. So how much was given? So from there, since
I'm not aware. I'm not aware of that. How much was given, and that government can enhance the amount of capital also. There could be some sources of acquiring the capital that is completely different. And you are thinking from the accounting sense, but I'm not concerned with that one accounting. That there has to be some capital on the basis of which we derive some assets, right? That is the accounting part of the balance sheet, right? We just need to be confined to the economic sense of what the Reserve Bank of India is doing here right now.
Okay, sir. So it means that the burden that is to print all those money is taken by the government or by RBI.
What is the burden? Yeah, burden in the sense, yeah, obviously the burden is shifted onto the Reserve Bank of India. See, the promise that you find on the paper notes has two important meanings, right? The first meaning is that it signifies that it is the liability of the Reserve Bank of India, and in any time of any time we are required to give this money back to the government or the Reserve Bank of India, we have nothing to worry, as we'll get the equal value of money from the Reserve Bank of India, right?
Yes.
So, and second thing is that this sort of promise by the Reserve Bank of India inspire confidence in us, right? It inspires confidence, and that makes those money as legal tender money, right? So promise makes those money legal tender money, valid money. You remove that promise from the note, nobody will accept that money. Will you accept that money? No, not at all. Because we have confidence that this is the money, this is the value. This is the value that I have been getting, right? And without that promise, it has no value at all.
Yes, sir.
So there are two importance. First is that it makes people convinced about the money, right? They start using it and it becomes the legal tender money, and that it also signifies that the same is the liability of the Reserve Bank of India. Yes, Gayatri.
Sir, may I know this lesson is from which particular class, sir? RBI.
Yeah, this is the first chapter. Right now we are dealing with the banking segment of Indian economy.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
In this segment, we'll discuss the entire banking, structure of our country. So we have started from the apex bank of our country, which is called the central bank, and the name of central bank in our country is Reserve Bank of India. Then we'll come to all other banks, like we'll discuss the commercial bank, cooperative bank, regional rural banks, small finance bank. All the banks we'll be discussing in this segment. Yeah, Dev. Okay, fine. Now we come to the class once again. Huh? So see, so there lies the rationale behind this, this system. So if you are being asked why RBI is required to maintain this one, assets worth 200 crores. So you say that simply, this allows the Reserve Bank of India to fulfill its obligations, so the liabilities, right? And why liability arises mainly because of printing of new currency, right? This is the system. Now you see that this system came into force in 1957. Minimum reserve system came into force in 1957, but even before that, the Reserve Bank of India used to print currency. So question is, before 1957, what was the system by which RBI used to print paper notes, right? So before 1957, the system by which RBI used to print currency is called proportionate reserve system. Proportionate reserve system. Today we have the minimum reserve system. Before 1957, the system by which RBI used to print money is called proportionate reserve system. In this system, what happened? There was a particular ratio in which RBI was required to maintain the assets with liabilities, right? See, printing of paper notes is the liability of RBI. This is the liability. And assets, the most assets has been in terms of gold, right? So if you want to print paper notes, you must have some amount of gold. This is assets, and printing of paper note is your liability. See this one. So let's suppose before 1957, RBI was printing 4 units of paper notes, so it must have, let's suppose, 1 unit of gold. See, this was the ratio in which government were required to run the system of printing currency, right? For the 4 units of money, it was required to 1 unit of gold. And if it prints 8 units of paper notes, it must have 2 units of gold. And if it prints 12 units of paper notes, it was required to maintain 3 units of gold. It was in a particular ratio that the Reserve Bank of India was supposed to maintain the liabilities and assets. 4:1, let's suppose, right? So what was the problem with this system and why this system was done away with by the government? See, every time RBI was required to print paper notes, it was required to purchase gold from the market, right? Because you have to maintain the gold as per the amount of money you are printing. More the money you print, more the gold you have to purchase. You have to maintain, right? So as the economy becomes bigger and bigger, as the transactions becomes more and more, the requirement of money becomes even greater, right? So RBI needs to pump in more money all the time. As the economy is getting bigger, requirement of money is increasing, right? So RBI needs to print more and more money. And for that, RBI needed to purchase gold in greater quantity. So what happened after 1945 or the Second War, right? After Second War, it was found that the prices of gold in international market skyrocketed. gold became very expensive after war. And why this happened? Because 70% of gold became confined with the hands of the US government, right? 70% of total gold in the world got transferred to the account of USA. And this was because of the fact that all other countries at the time of war were purchasing arms and ammunition from the US, right? So in order to purchase the arms, you need to pay in terms of dollar, but US allowed the purchasing of arms against gold, right? Gold. So every other country began to purchase gold from the US by paying in terms of gold, right? They were purchasing the arms by paying in terms of gold. And that is how the 70% of total gold became transferred to the account of USA, and there was scarcity of gold in international market. And due to this scarcity of gold, the price of gold skyrocketed, and the RBI and the government found this system now very expensive to run, right? Because every time the RBI needed to print new money, it needed to purchase or increase the assets in terms of gold, and the price of gold increased significantly, right? And that is why the government, along with Reserve Bank of India, decided to do away with this system, which was done in 1956. In 1956, this system was done away with by the government, and to replace this system, the next year, MRS, minimum reserve system, was introduced, right? Now, when you compare these two systems, you find that the present system is better than the previous one, right? Because in the present system, there is no limitations on the government as to the amount of money it can print, right? It can print any amount of money it wants for the economy. The only requirement is that the Reserve Bank of India should have a minimum assets worth 200 crore, right? This is what Reserve Bank of India needs to maintain all the time to print money, and any amount of money can be printed, right? But in the previous system, you see that every time new money has to be printed, gold has to be purchased by the Reserve Bank of India, right? So obviously this was burdensome for the Reserve Bank of India, and that is why this system was abolished. New system has been introduced, and in this new system, on the basis of minimum assets of worth 200 crore rupees, any amount of money can be printed. Now, question is, if there has been no limitations on the RBI with respect to printing of money, why not Reserve Bank of India prints colossal amount of money and distribute them among the people so that poverty in our country can be eradicated? See, people are poor. Poor in the sense that they do not have adequate purchasing power with them, right? We lack in money, right? We lack in money, so why not RBI prints money and give them to the people of India so that we have sufficient purchasing power? Can we remove poverty in that manner? No. Poverty cannot be removed by the distribution of money by the Reserve Bank of India. So what happens if RBI prints colossal amount of money and give them to the people of India in a very generous manner? See, if RBI gives money to the people of India, what happens? So everyone in the economy will get significant amount of money. Let's suppose we have the significant purchasing power with us. So what happens? Now this will cause the economic activity to come to a halt. All the economic activities will come to a halt. Production of goods and services will decline. Nobody would like to work in the economy. Nobody would like to work in the economy. आप लोग क्लास में थोड़ा सा ठीक से बैठे हैं क्या? बैठे हो यार? अरविंद, what is this? How are you sitting in the class? So, the production of goods and services will come to a halt as a result of distribution of colossal amount of money among the people of India. Like, let's suppose you have got the money from the RBI, and now you want to go and have some golgappa with your friends. Golgappa khane ka man kiya aap log ko, you want to go to the market and have the golgappa with your friends. But you will not find that golgappa wala there in the market. Why? Because that person has also got the money from Reserve Bank of India. He will not feel the requirement of working anymore, right? He will not feel the requirement of working anymore. See what is happening? The goods production is coming down, right? Then you come to the class next day. We'll take the class of Vashishth Sir. We'll learn the economics. But even Vashishth Sir will not be available here. I have also got the money from Reserve Bank of India. I will not feel the necessity of providing my services. After all, I'm providing services since I'm getting money out of this, right? But when I will get money from the Reserve Bank of India, I will not feel the necessity of giving my services. So even the production of services will come down. So everywhere you find that now production of goods and services have started declining, right? They will become scarce. On the other hand, we have significant amount of money with everybody, right? So number of goods and services are very less. Purchasing power is very more, right? And in this situation, what happens? When you have money but dearth of goods and services, the prices of goods and services will start increasing. Technically, this is called inflation, right? As a result of printing of more currency and their distributions among people, we may have the situation of inflation, right? Inflation is the situation in which prices of goods and services increases, right? So we'll find that now prices of available goods and services will start increasing. And when price increases or when inflation occurs in the economy, the purchasing power of money becomes less and less, right? So you may have significant amount of money, but as a result of inflation, the purchasing power of those money will come down significantly. You are as poor as you were. Are you getting my point? You are as poor as you were because the purchasing power of money has been significantly eroded as an impact of inflation. And that is why by printing of money and distributions of them among the people cannot solve the problem of poverty, right? So Reserve Bank of India never prints money to distribute them among the people in order to eradicate poverty, though any number of money can be printed by it on the basis of assets worth 200 crore rupees. So now you can ask me, sir, what are the factors which are considered by RBI while deciding the amount of money it should print, right? I'm going to discuss with you the factors Reserve Bank of India considers, factors RBI considers for printing paper notes, right? Which factors RBI considers for printing paper notes? Or for deciding the quantity of paper notes it should print? What are the factors which are considered? So the first factor which is considered by Reserve Bank of India to decide about the quantity of money it should print is the size of the economy. The size of the economy. RBI कितना पैसा प्रिंट करेगी, है ना? How much money RBI will print? It has to be decided on the basis of the size of the economy. And the size of the economy is something which is technically called GDP, right? GDP reflects the size of the economy. So I'm going to make this point clear to you using a simple example. Let's suppose in the year of 2021. In the year of 2021, the total number of goods that was produced in our economy was 100 units. Let's suppose we have a very simple and small economy, and in this small economy, last year we had produced 100 units of commodity, and the price of each commodity was, let's suppose, 7 rupees. See, 7 rupees is the price. Now you tell me how much more money people of India needs in order to purchase the additional quantity that we have produced. How much money? The additional units we produced is 100 units. Price per unit is 7 rupees. So how much money people of India needs so that the entire units that has been produced can be purchased? 700 rupees, isn't it? People of India need 700 rupees more this year, right? So this is how much RBI should print in 2021. And this 700 rupees is what? This is the market value of all the goods and services we have produced, isn't it? This 700 rupees is the market value of all the goods and services we have produced. See, the number of units we have produced is 100, price per unit being 700, price per unit being 7 rupees. 700 becomes the market value of all the goods that we have produced. And this market value of goods and services that we produced is called our GDP. So here additional GDP is 700 rupees, right? GDP means market value of goods and services that we produce. I will discuss this chapter later on. A complete discussion on GDP will be conducted later on. But for the time being, you must know what we mean by GDP. It is nothing but the market value of all the goods that we produce in a particular year, right? So now you see that RBI prints money as per the size of GDP. And RBI prints money as per the size of our economy or size of our GDP. What happens if RBI prints more or less than the size of GDP? That's what I'm going to discuss, right? So here in this case, you see that incremental or additional GDP is 700 rupees for 2021. This is the additional amount of units or goods we have produced, 100 units, right? And to enable the people of India to purchase this entire units, 700 rupees must be printed by Reserve Bank of India, right? This is the total requirement for money arising this year. Now, what happens if RBI prints more than that? Let's suppose the requirement this year is 700 rupees, but RBI prints 900 rupees, more than the size of GDP. So what happens? Ultimately, all this money will enter into the economy, will come into the hands of the people of India, right? When RBI prints money, ultimately this comes into the hands of the people of India somehow, right? So now people will have 900 rupees. This is the purchasing power with them. But how much goods and services are available? The additional goods and services are available worth only 700 rupees. This is how much we have produced, right? So see, the people is capable of making purchase of goods and services to the extent of 900 rupees, but the available goods and services is only of 700 rupees. So aggregate demand would be more than aggregate supply. We are demanding goods and services worth 900. This is how much we have got as a result of printing of currency by RBI. But total goods available in the market, in the economy, is worth only 700 rupees. So now demand becomes more than supply. When demand becomes more than supply, that tends to increase the price of goods and services, right? Price will increase, and technically this is called inflation. We'll have the problem of inflation. The simple point is that if, the excess amount of money is printed by RBI, excess of what? Excess of the requirement, right? If more than the requirement is being printed by RBI, that translates into inflation. And is inflation something we desire to have in the economy? Not at all. Being the people of the economy will feel the hit of inflation. When the price increases, that increases the plight and sufferings of common people, especially the poor people in our country, right? So this is not the situation that we desire to have in the economy, right? So this is an economic problem, which we call inflation. Inflation will be there in the economy as a result of the excess printing of money by RBI. And that is why RBI is bit, circumspect. RBI is being cautious while printing the amount of money. It has to ensure that money printed should not be more than the size of GDP, right? Otherwise, this will beget the problem of inflation. What happens if RBI prints less than the size of GDP? Here in this example, the size of GDP is 700. See here, the size of GDP is 700. This is the total requirement of money we have, right? But let's suppose RBI prints only 300 rupees. So people will have additionally 300 rupees. We could purchase goods worth 300 only, but supply of goods and services in the market is worth 700 rupees. This is the aggregate supply. So now more goods and services are available. Goods and services worth 700 is available, while for the sake of purchasing, people of India has only 300 rupees. So here what is happening? Supply is getting more than demand. As a result of this, goods worth 400 rupees will remain unsold. Goods worth 400 rupees will remain unsold in the economy. We have only 300 rupees. Goods available in the economy is worth 700 rupees. Goods worth 400 rupees will remain unsold. And when goods remain unsold in the economy, will producers of India like to produce more? No. They have the inventory of unsold goods, right? They have the inventory of unsold goods. In this situation, they would not like to produce more. And if they do not like to produce more, will they keep the same amount of workers with them? They will cut off the workers from their factory, and new labor force will not be hired, right? Are you getting my point? There would be retrenchment of workers from the factory, as there is the inventory of unsold goods, and the new workers will not get the jobs in the economy. People will be rendered unemployed. So the problem of unemployment will increase here. What do you find here? You find that when money is printed more than the size of GDP, that begets the problem of inflation. And if money printed by Reserve Bank of India is less than what the size of GDP is, that begets the problem of unemployment, right? And both of these problems may spoil the economy, right, to a great extent. And that is why Reserve Bank of India has to exercise a great deal of caution while deciding about the size of money it prints in the economy, right? So the most important factor, I'm not saying that there is only one factor that RBI considers. There are other factors also, but the most important factor is the size of economy or the size of GDP, right? So every year Reserve Bank of India has to take into consideration how much additional goods and services has been produced and how much money is needed by the people of India to purchase all those additionally produced goods and services, right? So it has to take into consideration the incremental or additional GDP and accordingly prints money for the economy of India, right? Is that clear? So we'll take the questions from you. Raise your hands one by one if you have some doubts in this very particular point. Raise your hands one by one if you have some doubt in this particular point. In this particular point only, don't ask questions from any other points. Yes. Who is this one? Just a moment.
प्रगति आप अपना डाउट
प्रगति,
पूछिए.
प्रगति पूछिए. प्रगति पूछिए आप. आयशा आप पूछिए. आयशा पूछिए.
Hello, sir. Sir, if market value will be the 700, then RBI produced 300.
No. Market value of goods and services 300 rupees.
300 rupees.
No. 700 rupees.
700 rupees, and RBI produced 300. Right?
In the second example, RBI
Yes.
printed.
Yes. Second
It's
example.
not. Yes, RBI printed 300 rupees. Yes.
So supply will be increased as compared to the demand, right? Or demand will be increased compared to the
No.
supply.
Supply is more than demand. Supply of goods is worth 700 rupees.
So inflation will be increased.
No, unemployment will increase.
Unemployment. Okay, sir.
Money in the hands of the people will be 300 rupees because this is the amount of money which has been printed by Reserve Bank of India.
Yes.
So only 300 rupees will be there as purchasing power with the hands of the people of India. But goods available in the market is worth 700 rupees, right?
Yes.
So people can purchase goods worth 300 only. Goods worth 400 will remain unsold, right?
Yes. And one request, sir, when there is a important points are there, you can use the Hindi language also for better and a long time understanding.
Your English better than that of mine. Why you want Hindi language to be used? After all, you have to write the examinations in English.
Yes, for only the understanding better for a long time.
Let English be there in the class. Let English be there in the class. Let English be there in the class because I'm not that comfortable in English. So this is the time I make the practice of speaking English.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So for me it's very important, है ना? And not only me, है ना? आपको you get the language from your teachers. You get the language from the books.
जी.
Yes. Mohammed Ibrahim, पूछिए.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you repeat what happened if the demand increases and supply will decrease?
No, supply is of 700 rupees in this example. And let's suppose RBI prints more than that, 900 rupees, let's suppose. So demand is more than supply. People have purchasing power worth 900 rupees. Goods available is worth only 700 rupees. Demand is more than supply. So it will cause the price to increase. We'll have the problem of inflation. You got this point, Ibrahim? You got this point? Acha, Srinivas?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I got
Srinivas? Yeah,
Yes, sir. सर आपने सर थोड़ा देर पहले कहा कि 5000 रुपीज का नोट्स अवेलेबल थे मार्केट में. सर तो वो फिर सर वो नोट सर बंद क्यों हो गए? मतलब जब अवेलेबल थे तो फिर उसका बंद होने का क्या कारण था सर?
वही कारण था जिस वजह से 1000 रुपए के नोट्स बंद कर दिए गए थे, 500 के नोट्स बंद कर दिए गए थे. दूसरा कारण था कि India used to be a very poor country at that time, and the use of such a high denominations of note was very less.
अच्छा सर, तो फिर मतलब कि 2000 के नोट्स तो सर 1000 के वैल्यूएशन से ज्यादा हो गए, तो फिर बात तो सर वही हो गया.
ये तो आपको रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया से पूछना चाहिए था. आप मुझसे पूछ रहे हैं ना. ठीक है,
ठीक है, थैंक यू सर.
हाँ, तुषार पूछिए आप.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So my question is like as you said, like during the deflation, I think the unemployment rate will increase, right? So
Yes.
we can say that during the inflation, the more chances of the employability will be there. So we can say that at what extent the inflation is like good for the economy.
So there is a kind of compromise that Reserve Bank of India, the government of India has to strike, right? That depends ki matlab which problem is pestering the people of India more. If we are troubled more by the inflation than by the unemployment, right? Then we have to reduce the magnitude of inflation, even at the cost of unemployment. But if we are troubled more by unemployment than by inflation, then even at the cost of inflation, we have to ensure that more jobs are created. So there is always a kind of trade-off, a compromise, a conflict between these two objectives. आया समझ पाए तुषार मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ? क्या हो जाता है सिस्टम को यार? यस वीरेंद्र पूछिए. Virendra?
Yes, am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, good morning, sir. So my question is, in present scenario, there is high inflation, and somehow it is associated with the global geopolitics. So to control this, how RBI will play a role? Because since last, several quarters,
you will get the insight into this in the next chapter, that is on monetary policy, right? Okay. I will discuss how Reserve Bank of India is battling with this problem of higher inflation as a result of this geopolitical situation, especially due to the war between the Russia and Ukraine. We'll get the insight into the next class, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Vikas? Yes, पूछिए.
Hello, sir. Sir, as you told us that 85 crore of assets must be in term of foreign currency. So, sir, my question is, does it need to be in the form of dollar, or it can be in other forms like Chinese?
It can be in terms of foreign currency, which is used to settle international transactions.
So, sir, as you know that China is in its way to tarnish the monopoly of American currency. So, will it a chance to transform in place of dollar to Chinese in the future?
That's a different question, sir. Why are you making the hypothetical question?
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay.
You have to ask this question from the very point that I discussed.
Okay.
The size of GDP, which has to be considered by Reserve Bank of India while deciding the size of money it should print. Manas Pandey?
गुड मॉर्निंग सर.
यस गुड मॉर्निंग
सर जो इस पॉइंट नहीं सर, इससे पहले आपने जो पढ़ाया उससे एक क्वेश्चन में था सर.
वो पहले क्यों नहीं पूछ लिया आपने? हाँ पूछिए
सर. उस समय सर हैंड रेस किए थे, लेकिन सर मतलब चांस
पूछिए. हाँ पूछिए
सर जो टेन्योर का आपने बताया था सर आरबीआई डायरेक्टर्स का, उसमें सर ये जो ऑफिशियल डायरेक्टर्स होते हैं सर, जैसे कि गवर्नर और डिप्टी गवर्नर, इनके भी सर 3+, हाँ सर, उसमें सर 3+2 का फॉर्मूला उसमें भी सर लगता है.
उनमें ही तो लगता है यार, ऑफिशियल डायरेक्टर्स में ही तो लगता है. अनऑफिशियल का तो अनऑफिशियल डायरेक्टर्स के 4 इयर्स के टेन्योर होते हैं.
ओके सर.
हेमा पूछिए.
Sir, you told in example unemployment was increased.
Yes.
But the supply is more than demand. The prices also decreases, no?
Yes, prices decreases, and that disincentivize the producers to take the plunge and produce more.
Yes, sir. This is doesn't cause to deflation in the market.
Yeah, that is the situation of deflation. When supply is more than the demand, first price will come down, and this plummeting of price is called deflation. And then deflation will beget the problem of unemployment, because at the time of falling of prices, the producers of the economy get disincentivized. They do not want to produce more at this situation, right? So they will start cutting off workers. So first deflation will arise, and then it will lead the economy towards the problem of unemployment. Is that clear? Yes, Umar, Pukran, Umar, and Sidram, one by one. Umar?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, my question is regarding the second example where supply is greater than demand, as it will cause deflation to unemployment. Sir, government and central banks will increase spending this time. Is the demand revival?
Yeah, that is to stimulate the demand in the economy, especially after the situation of COVID in the economy.
Sir, when supply will be greater than demand, there will be unemployment, then they will increase the spending.
Because
and the central bank
situation was that demand was subdued in the economy. It was not at par with the supply.
Sir, my question is like they itself are causing deflating situation, and they itself are trying to encourage the demand.
Your voice is not that clear. Your voice is not that clear. You try
Sir,
to say it clearly.
Sir, my question is that they itself are causing the deflating situation by increasing their supply and lowering the demand.
No. Every decrease in price cannot be deflationary. Every increase in prices cannot be considered as inflationary. Right? That depends upon the output gap.
Okay, sir.
Let's suppose price is already very depressed. So if government tries to increase price somewhat, this increase in price is not inflation because price has already been very moderate, very small, right?
Yes, sir.
Here increase in price will incentivize the producers, but this increase in price is not considered as inflation.
Okay,
getting
okay,
my point. And
Sir,
every
yes,
decrease in price is not deflation. Let's suppose price has been very significant. It's been very high, and now government and Reserve Bank of India if tries to bring down the price. Will you consider this to be deflation? No, this is not deflation. This is cutting out of inflation that could be necessary for the economy.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Furkan and Sidram. From this point, you ask the questions. I want to ensure कि मतलब आप समझ पाए जो मैं point को बताया हूँ आप लोगों को.
हेलो सर.
Yes.
सर ये पता करना था कि आरबीआई जो साइज ऑफ इकोनॉमी को कंसीडर करती है वो बेस ईयर से करती है या करंट ईयर से सर?
अरे वो यार जीडीपी में पढ़ोगे, मैं पूछ रहा हूँ कि इस पॉइंट से पूछो.
सर जीडीपी का टोटल अमाउंट का प्रिंट करती है फिर सर उसका कोई फ्रैक्शन होता है?
इंक्रीमेंटल मैं बोल रहा हूँ. मैंने वर्ड यूज किया था एडिशनल जीडीपी. मैंने वर्ड यूज किया था इंक्रीमेंटल जीडीपी. How much additionally we have produced this year, that needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay, sir. Incremental. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Pratyusha.
Hello, sir.
Sir,
my question is about RBI. Why should RBI keep its assets in the form of gold and only in foreign currency? Why not in Indian currency?
See, Indian currency is not held by the Reserve Bank of India as a backing of our currency. When money, was started as a medium of exchange, before that, what happened? We used to use this gold as a medium of exchange. So every time there was transactions between these two people, some metals were being used. I'm not talking of barter system of exchange. After barter system of exchange, what happened? Some form of money began to be used by the people. So the first came the metallic money, like gold, silver. These were being used by the people to facilitate the transactions, right?
Yes,
but it was found that it was inconvenient for the people to carry the large amount of goods for every transactions they wanted, right?
Yes,
like
sir.
if you want to purchase a good amount of property somewhere, you will have to carry a good amount of gold. So risk was involved here, right?
Yes,
Since
sir.
it was in the form of metal, it's not convenient for the people to carry the large amount of gold every time they make the transactions, right? So
Yes,
they started issuing a kind of paper against the backing of gold, right? And that paper become the representative of the gold that one may have, right?
Okay, sir.
So
Is there
who will,
any
who
other
will issue the
intention?
paper? Now, who will issue the paper? The Reserve Bank of India will issue the paper, right?
Yes, sir.
So every paper notes that is being issued by the Reserve Bank of India do have backing in terms of gold. And that is why gold has been held by the RBI.
Okay, so what about the foreign currency? Why should we keep it in foreign currency?
Because it do have the value, it do have the the trust among the people. Like dollars do have the that kind of credibility among the people.
Okay,
Its value is not going to be eroded very easily. So we have those currencies as backing of our currency.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So we come to the topic now. और 15 मिनट की क्लास बाकी है ना, मैं ले लेता हूँ. So this was the first important function that I discussed with you, printing of currency by Reserve Bank of India. And the second important functions of RBI is that it acts as RBI. RBI acts as bank to all banks. Bank to all banks. We have several kinds of banks in the economy. We have some commercial banks. We have some cooperative bank. We have RRB, regional rural banks. Then we have small finance banks. Then we have payment banks. These are different kinds of banks which we find in the economy. And the Reserve Bank of India act as bank to all these banks. So question is, why Reserve Bank of India is called bank to all banks? Because first reason is that Reserve Bank of India provides banking facilities to all these banks. RBI provides banking facilities to all these banks, right? In banking facilities, we have two kinds of facilities basically. Facility of deposit and that of loan or credit. Loan or credit, right? Like we common people are getting the banking facilities mostly from the commercial banks, right? So every time we have to deposit, we go to commercial bank. When we have to avail the loans, we have to go to commercial bank. So commercial banks provides banking facilities to common people. And all these commercial or cooperative or any other banks, they are getting the banking facilities from whom? From the Reserve Bank of India. So if these banks, like commercial or cooperative or RB, if these banks need to deposit their money, they have the account with RBI. They have the deposit account with whom? The RBI, right? And if they want to avail the loan or credit, they can avail it from the Reserve Bank of India, right? And that is why Reserve Bank of India is called what we called the last lender of, this is RBI is called lender of last resort. RBI is called lender of last resort. And why this is so? Because if commercial banks fail to often require sums of money, ultimately, eventually, it approaches whom? The RBI, right? Ultimately, it gets the money from the Reserve Bank of India, and that is why Reserve Bank of India is called lender of last resort, right? So this is the first reason we consider RBI to be the bank to all banks, because it provides banking facilities to all these banks. Second important reason is that RBI grants license to these banks. RBI grants license to these banks. Without having the license from Reserve Bank of India, no bank can come up in the economy, right? No bank can come up in the economy without having the license from Reserve Bank of India. Third important reason is that RBI can cancel license of commercial bank on some valid grounds, right? On some valid grounds, it can cancel the license. This is the third important reasons we consider RBI to bank to all banks. And the fourth important reason is that RBI frames, rules and procedure for banks in the economy, right? So these are four important reasons which make Reserve Bank of India bank to all banks. It even frames the rules and regulations for all the banks in the economy. And those banks are supposed to abide by those established rules, right? And we have already seen that this power were given to RBI through the passage of Banking Regulations Act of 1949. Banking Regulation Act of 1949. These powers were given to RBI, and since then RBI became the bank to all banks. So apart from the agency which prints money for the economy, Reserve Bank of India also work as bank to all banks, right? The next important function is that RBI acts as banker, agent, and advisor to government. Advisor to government. See, Reserve Bank of India is working as the banker, as an agent, as an advisor to government. Here government consists of both the government, central government as well as state government. For both the government, it is the banker, agent, and advisor. But these functions as a banker, agent, and advisors are distinct from each other. You have to know what exactly RBI does as a banker to government, what exactly does as an agent to the government, and what it does as an advisor to government, right? So first we'll discuss as a banker to government. RBI is working as a banker. Banker to whom? To government. So what it does as a banker to government? As a banker to government, RBI provides banking facilities to our government. It provides banking facilities to government. See, we have discussed that this facility consists of facility of deposit and that of loan or credit, right? So government account is there with the Reserve Bank of India. Every time government needs to deposit money, it has the account with the Reserve Bank of India. It can deposit money over there, and in the time of crisis, the government can avail the loan from Reserve Bank of India. We'll discuss under the chapter of fiscal policy what is the method of the government to avail the loan from Reserve Bank of India, right? So it's providing the facility of deposit as well as that of loan to the government. So this is how the RBI is banker to the government, right? Next, as a banker to government, RBI conducts all financial transactions of government. RBI conducts all financial transactions of government. Or you can say that the Reserve Bank of India conducts transactions on behalf of government. Every financial transactions in which money is involved, right? Your financial transactions mean those transactions where money is involved. Either government has to pay money or government has to receive money, right? So the RBI on behalf of government will conduct the financial transactions. So let's suppose government of India export something to the US government. When we export something or government exports something, the government of India is supposed to get the money from the US. This money on behalf of government of India will be received by the Reserve Bank of India, right? And let's suppose we import something from other countries. Our government imports something from other countries. The government is supposed to make this payment to that country, right? So again, this payment on behalf of government has to be made by the Reserve Bank of India. See, this is what we mean by conducting financial transactions by RBI on behalf of government. So all the financial transactions of government, is carried out by the Reserve Bank of India. This is what RBI does as a banker to government. Third, as a banker to government, RBI manages government borrowings. RBI manages government borrowings. See, this is very, very important. RBI is called the manager of public borrowings. RBI is called manager of public. Here, public refers to government. Public borrowings. Right? So why RBI is called manager of public borrowings? Because RBI itself manages the loans availed by the government, right? Just like individuals, government avail, borrowings from the market. And especially when there is over expenditure. If you find that government expenditure becomes more than its revenue, right? If government expenditure becomes more than its revenue, then obviously the government will get compelled to take the loan. Otherwise, it cannot meet with the excess expenditure. Like last year budget, you may have seen that government expenditure was to the extent of around 40 lakh crore rupees. This is how much government intends to make expenditure in the economy for the financial year of 22-23, right? But government expenditure was somewhere, I think 16 lakh less than this amount. So 16 lakh less, that means 24 lakh crore rupees only. See, the government, estimates that its revenue will be to the extent of 24 lakh crore rupees, but its expenditure will be 40 lakh crore rupees. We find that government expenditure is in deficit. Sorry, government budget is in deficit. Expenditure more than its revenue. Expenditure to the extent of 40 lakh crore rupees and revenues to the extent of only 24 lakh crore rupees. And in this situation of deficit budget, the government will get compelled to take the loan from the market. And the loan available by the government is called public borrowings, right? So now, who manages public borrowings? It is the government. It is the government borrowings. It is managed by the Reserve Bank of India. What do we mean by management of public or government borrowings? See, since RBI is the bank to the government, since RBI is the bank to the government, being the banker, it has to ensure that government obtains these loans at the lowest interest rate. Are you getting my point? RBI is the caretaker of the government. It takes care that government, avail the loans at the minimum possible interest rate. Cost of borrowings on the government has to be minimum. This is something to be ensured by the Reserve Bank of India, being the manager of public borrowings, right? So it is Reserve Bank of India that decides where exactly and how much the government has to take the loan and at what interest rate, right? So that the cost of borrowing on the government is the minimum. And this is how the public borrowings is managed by Reserve Bank of India. These three things are done by the government as a capacity of banker to the government. It provides banking facility to the government. It conducts the financial transactions on the behalf of the government, and then it manages all the loans available by the government, right? Then second important functions of RBI to the government is in the capacity of agent. RBI is the agent to the government. Here agent means representative. Agent means representative of the government. So being the agent or representative, RBI participates in various national and international conferences on behalf of government. Please write it down. As an agent of government, RBI participates in various national and international conferences. RBI participates in various national and international conferences on behalf of government. On behalf of government. You got this point? Like let's suppose World Bank is going to convene a conference on monetary policy or banking system. Let's suppose money policy and banking system. Banking system. So we know that the banking system is headed by the Reserve Bank of India. Monetary policy is implemented by Reserve Bank of India. So when this conference is being held by World Bank, obviously India would be one of the invitees. And we are one of the members of World Bank. India would be one of the invitees. But instead of the representative, instead of the government, this conference would be participated by whom? The RBI, because RBI has been the authority which can speak on these matters, the money supply or the banking, right? So on behalf of government here in this conference, Reserve Bank of India will make the participation. This is what the agency function of Reserve Bank of India to government means, right? And last but not the least is, it is the advisor to the government, right? RBI is advisor to the government. It has to give advice to the government when government asks for it, right? When government asks for it, it has to give the advice. Advice could be given in oral form or in written form, as is needed by the government. If government just need the oral advice, it can be provided to it by the Reserve Bank of India. Sometimes government needs written, advice from the Reserve Bank of India. Then Reserve Bank of India will have to. So when advice is being solicited by the government, when advice is being demanded by the government, it's the responsibility of Reserve Bank of India to give advice. But why government would need the advice? Because see, in our country, in this democratic setup, we know that educational qualification has not been determined for the representative of people, right? They're being elected, but they could be illiterate, uneducated. But when they form the government, they have to make policy on various economic segments, right? And making the policy requires the knowledge, the expertise, right? That government may not have. So what government does? Government take the advice from the expertise or some experts, right? So Reserve Bank of India consists of group of economists who have the understanding of economics, how economy works, right? When the government needs the advice, the RBI give them to the government. This is what RBI does to the government, to both the central as well as state government, right? So in this class, we have dealt with the facts relating to Reserve Bank of India, management of Reserve Bank of India, and three important functions of RBI. We are still, remaining with two more important functions. One is called the custody of foreign exchange, and the last one is credit control, that I will discuss in the next class, right? The only requirement on your part is that you keep on revising the things that I teach in the class on daily basis. Do not let your work to pile up, right? You complete your work on daily basis. The class that I provide must be revised today only, that you go through the notes once or twice. Apart from this one, apart from the class notes, you will be provided with the printed notes. Don't worry about that, right? So if some of you have failed to note down some of the points, don't worry about that. I will be giving you my printed notes that will help you a lot, because I have created those notes myself, right? That's not from somewhere else. I have written those notes using my lectures, right? So the same kind of sequence, the same kind of things you'll find in my printed notes. So if you fail to note down something, you can refer to my printed notes, but that doesn't mean that you stop writing in the class, right? The benefit of writing is that helps you keep things in your mind for a very long period of time, right? So do not fail to pay attention to the classes, or write down whatever I discuss in the class. In case you fail, then only you refer to the class notes. Otherwise, you refer to my printed notes. Otherwise, my class notes will be more than sufficient, right? Got it? Now, 2 or 3 minutes of time, you can ask me the questions. If you have some doubts, you can ask me. Something you need to ask? Yes, please raise your hands. Yes, Vijita.
हेलो सर।
हाँ, पूछिए।
सर मुझे ये पूछना था, जो लेंडर ऑफ द लास्ट रिजॉर्ट आपने बताया है आरबीआई का फंक्शन, तो उसमें वो सिर्फ बैंकिंग इंस्टीट्यूशंस के लिए है या फिर अदर एनबीएफसी और
नहीं, बेसिकली वो बैंकिंग के लिए है। When banks fail to have the required resources, ultimately it has to approach the Reserve Bank of India.
और ये गवर्नमेंट के लिए भी मतलब नहीं है, सिर्फ बैंकिंग इंस्टीट्यूशंस के लिए है, राइट?
ये बैंक के लिए है। ये बैंक के लिए, गवर्नमेंट के लिए नहीं है। गवर्नमेंट के कई अदर सोर्सेस भी होते हैं। ठीक है, ओके। उमर, Manas Pandey, yes, one by one you can ask the question.
Sir, my question is that the banks are segregated like scheduled commercial.
You're not audible. You're not that audible.
Hello.
हाँ, बोलिए।
Yes, sir. My question is that the banks are segregated like scheduled commercial banks, payment banks,
Yes.
Why there was the need of segregation as policy is different for all those banks? Why there was the need?
So you mean to say that there should not be any segregation? Segregation can be on the basis of different things. It can be on the basis of purpose. It can be on the basis of objectives. It can be on the basis of functions they perform in the economy. So what difficulty is there if those banks have been segregated?
Sir, actually policies are different.
Commercial banks have different purpose than the cooperative banks. You cannot club them together. They have been classified. They have been segregated on the different grounds.
Okay, sir.
So be happy with that segregation. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Shivangi. शिवांगी पूछिए।
हेलो सर।
हाँ।
Sir, I want to ask that previously we were discussing about the factors considered by RBI to print paper notes. Sir, but after the doubt session and discussing one point like the size of the economy, we haven't discussed other points. So is there only one factor that is considered by RBI?
I said that there could be some other factors also, but the most important factor is the size of the economy. Other factors are a little bit technical, like if I say that the other factor is velocity of circulation of money, right? Other factor is velocity of circulation of money. So that becomes a little bit complicated for the student of UPSC. Are you getting my point? And that is why I didn't discuss other points. Yes, और कौन है? संगमेश माथुर. Sangamesh Mathur, yes.
Sir, in public borrowings, which of the from which government can borrow the money?
Government have different sources apart from Reserve Bank of India. हम लोग से भी लोन लेती है गवर्नमेंट, है ना? That will become clear in the next class. How government avail the loan from the market, है ना? ठीक है? Who else? और कौन पूछना चाहता है? Yes, पूछिए अब.
यस सर। सर ये जो 200 करोड़ का सर हमारा एसेट मतलब होना चाहिए हमेशा सर, सिंस इंडिपेंडेंस सर आरबीआई हम सर ऑलवेज सर मेंटेन कर पाया है।
अरे मैं 1957 में आया ये सिस्टम।
अरे मतलब सर वही जब से मतलब एप्लीकेबल हुआ है तब से ऑलवेज सर आरबीआई हैज मेंटेन्ड दिस एसेट।
बहुत कम एसेट्स है, 200 का वर्थ बहुत, अभी 40 लाख करोड़ रुपए का एसेट्स है आरबीआई के पास। आपको डरने की जरूरत नहीं है, यू विल गेट द सफिशिएंट अमाउंट ऑफ मनी, राइट?
और सर ये जो सर आपने लास्ट रिसोर्ट वाला बताया था कि सर जब कॉमर्शियल बैंक सर हर जगह से मतलब दे आर अनेबल टू ऑब्टेन देन दे रीच आरबीआई सर मींस, और सर कॉमर्शियल बैंक्स के और सर अदर बैंक्स के और क्या सर सोर्सेज होते हैं? मतलब सर गवर्नमेंट के तो और भी सोर्सेज हो सकते हैं लेकिन कॉमर्शियल बैंक्स के और क्या सोर्सेज रहते हैं?
नहीं, गवर्नमेंट की ओर से अगर पब्लिक सेक्टर कमर्शियल बैंक है दे कीप ऑन गेटिंग द मनी फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट, and the government keeps on infusing the capital into the public sector commercial bank. Apart from them, they can raise the money from the market. They can issue the bonds, debentures, right? They have the various instruments that they are allowed to, float in the market and raise the money from the public. Deposit being the most important source of revenue. I mean, the money for the commercial banks.
Okay, means sir, in case of any trouble, they used to reach RBI when their balance sheet.
Yes, they're in trouble. They're in the crisis of money. Then they can reach the Reserve Bank of India.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for today's class.
Okay, and we'll continue with this chapter in the next class. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for being with us today. Sir, if you want to say something, please, you can go ahead. So you want to say something?
No, it's okay. Should I leave now?
Yes, sir. The team will interact for a while and then we can end the meeting.
Okay, so these guys